Thanks for staying with us in the Kogi and Bayelsa election studios, continuing coverage here on Channels Television. But of course, we've been having tremendous time in many voting areas all over Kogi and Bayelsa as these elections happen, especially the governorship election and state constituency elections, as well as the rerun senatorial election in Kogi West senatorial district. Well, all of that is going on, and it's very, very beautiful so far, except that, of course, pockets of unrest here and there that we mentioned, as well as this latest one in Keremo local government area. That
yes, that's a Ward 8 Iraq Center in the Keremo local government area that was destroyed. Correspondents are giving us feedback on this one, but we'll keep eyes on that. But that's not the only place where we have other places where we have got a similar exercise that is going on now. We understand that the PDP candidate is voting right now. These are live pictures in Kogi State right now. The PDP candidate Musa Wada, we understand, voted just moments ago, and initially there was that situation where it was difficult to say whether he went through the process in Dekina, where some hoodlums came into that particular center. And
of course, because of that unrest, police was able to curtail that process of disrupting the voting procedure as it went on there. So here he is now, Musa Wada, casting his vote, the PDP candidate in that election in Kogi State. Of course, more will come as events unfold.
My voting number was not on that side. I had to come here to sort out where, because I'm 1409, I eventually saw my name here. And that's how to vote in another polling point. The candidate recognized it fast, and I think and hope if it continues this way, we'll have a very fair election in Ward 1 here. Everything is toward, but it's too early for me to know because these miscreants just come like thunder. But I've told the prospective voters to be vigilant. I was telling them to make sure they vote, stay, and ensure their vote counts from polling unit to the collation center. Because we believe and we heard that the results at each local government collation center will be announced there. So I told them to sacrifice today by being vigilant to ensure that their vote counts in the interest of the democracy.
PDP candidate in the election in Kogi State. Of course, we have another contestant in that election, who is the incumbent governor of Kogi State, Governor Yaya Bello, also saying a thing or two about the process.
I am admonishing and calling on all the citizens of Kogi State. This is an exercise, not a fight. Go out there, present your PVC, cast your vote peacefully, and then return back home or stay within the perimeters that was being provided by the law enforcement agencies. Then watch and observe as the results have been collated and announced from polling units down to the state level. I will urge all the people of Kogi State that they should not take laws into their hands as law enforcement agencies have been charged to do their job. And I equally call on my supporters not to perpetuate any violence anywhere, because he who commits violence will face the full wrath of the law.
Bring you other tracks as we have them. We understand that the voice of the SDP candidate, also Natasha Akpoti, is somewhere. As soon as we have it, we'll bring it to you.
Yes, so but, let's get back into the conversation now. And in our Abuja studios, where Professor Jide Ofo Adibe, Professor of Political Science, Nasarawa State University, also joins Festus, who is also the INEC voter education personnel, who is in our Abuja studios as well as Professor Isaac Obasi, the Professor of Public Administration, University of Abuja. All three gentlemen, many thanks indeed for joining us, and for Mr. Festus, thank you for staying on with us to this time. Let me get your thoughts on this, Professor Adibe. You've been following up on the process and seeing how all of this is unwinding. Nasarawa is not too far from Kogi State, I can imagine, but these are some of the challenges that we have. But the brighter side is that we have had some good results, good feedbacks from the elections in Kogi State as well as in Bayelsa State. Do you think the mechanism that was set in place by civil society organizations to, enlighten people about the importance of having a hitch-free, acceptable process, do you think that came into bear in these elections, looking at what you've seen so far?
Yeah, thank you. We know there have been a number of changes in the regulations and rules. What we are not sure for now is how they have impacted on the process. We do know that in some places, election materials did not arrive in time. Tueke, for example, it took more than 3 hours before they were ready. But you may argue that these are isolated incidents. We don't know yet until we have the full picture of all the places these incidents have happened. And then we can come back to some of the metrics. We'll have to use certain metrics to measure, to be able to ascertain whether any measure or measures put in place are bringing in the desired outcome. And by the way, I wouldn't know who put the measures. I mean, whether they were championed by the civil society organizations, or which measure leads to a particular outcome. We are not going to establish cause and effect here. Our interest is to make sure that the process is continuously improving. We are too used to, I'm happy our INEC commissioner is here, we are too used to their giving us excuses. So whether the usual excuse that other people are sabotaging them, we will say that is part of why you ask for a lot of money and why you are given a lot of money to be able to monitor the process, to be able to make contingency plans, to be able to do scenario mappings. We are not going to continue to, accommodate excuses upon excuses from INEC on why it is not doing its job. Having said this, we don't expect perfection. It is a process. And the imperfections in the electoral system are also reflections of what's happening in the general society. So we can make accommodations for that. But when they become too high, as some of us believe happened in the last general elections, INEC's excuses, rather than becoming comforting, become actually very annoying.
Of Professor Obasi, do you get a sense that these elections are going as you expected right from the start, or do you have any concerns that you nurse?
Well, up to the time the National Commissioner came in here, it was still very peaceful in the two states. Suddenly, as he was still talking, you people brought in news reports from the first place in Ajay Crowder school in Lokoja, and that was very startling. My immediate reaction as I listened to what was happening was, where is the deterrent? The National Commissioner rightly pointed out the arrangements made, the inner and outer security arrangements. I asked, where did these people who were masked came in armed and disrupted a place that huge, big number of people, many was clustered in one place, which ordinarily should have been well protected. And we are told that that place, Ajay Crowder, is the largest so far in Lokoja. So where is the deterrent? Where are the number of policemen we are told, 30-something thousand posted to that place? What are they meant to do? You pay allowances to these men and you put them redundant, or what? The National Commissioner did a lot to explain, and quite true. He was right in the explanation he gave. But I asked myself, where are the deterrents? To rationalize on the basis of these people who know the terrain, they are able to know and be there. No, it's not enough. Where is the deterrent? Is this thing programmed to work that way? Is there an invisible hand driving what we are seeing. I cannot see a situation with all the arrangement, security arrangement that was made, even though INEC, to be sincere and candid, they saw this coming and they raised alarm. And on the basis of that, assurances were made. Where is the deterrent? Why would policemen, or the number we have in Kogi, for instance, in Lokoja, the state capital, be there, and this man will go there and do something? It tells me there's something that is happening that anybody is not seeing clearly, but which logically, and with the knowledge God gives us, we know something is happening. There's an invisible hand. Nobody should deny it. Somebody, if you have a control of state security in your place, and here this is happening, then tell me, is government house, by the way, safe? Assuming this is to reverse, we say that the government house in Kogi is safe. So if government house is safe, then every other place should be safe with the number of policemen we have in Kogi. So I'm disappointed with Kogi situation. So far, so good in Bayelsa, except the one you said in Ekere what? Ekremo. Yes, the one that happened there. I'm still shocked. But what I'm expecting in Bayelsa is that we must shift emphasis on later happenings. Maybe those guys who are supposed to cause mayhem now are waiting for the next stage after peaceful voting. That's where we should be concentrating our focus.
Professor Obasi, you've asked this question over and over again, where is the deterrent? Who should we be asking this question from?
Yes.
And as we speak, it is clear that, as you have also said, INEC has done a lot and raised alarms where necessary. So who should we be pointing these questions to, Professor Obasi?
Very interesting. You should know whom to ask this for. Who is the chief security person in this country? Who is the IG of this IG of this country, IGP of this country? Who is he? He should explain to us what is men who went there. Taxpayers' money is being used to keep these men, get many of these men from other states, transport them, house them, put everything required to make them maintain security in the state. And after all this are done, and I'm here watching people running helter-skelter, people coming with gun with mass face and collecting the ballot. No. This is unacceptable. It's unacceptable. And nobody should be taking us for granted. We want to know who are those who are really making this happen. Somebody must be in control, please.
Professor Adibe, let me quickly ask you this one before we take a break. Would you say that we have made any progress in our conduct of elections? I mean, okay, let me just ask it this way. Do you see any way in which we have improved in our electoral process between February and these elections going on in Kogi and Bayelsa states?
What time period are you looking at in terms of that progress? Because I think there has been some measure of progress. We have not been static. The progress are very imperceptible. There have been some changes. For example, you accredit and vote at the same time. These are supposed to be progress in terms of rule making. But what we have not seen so far is the impact of those minor reforms, even in the introduction of card readers, the impact of such reforms on the credibility of the process. And that's something we are looking for. I mean, it is one thing to blame. Who do we blame? It's one thing to argue who do we blame for this. I think we should partly blame the INEC, not just the police. The neutrality of the security agencies and the agencies of the state have always been in contestation. So, and if you're a body that has taken too much money and raised so much hope, then what we're expecting is that you will be able to make plans, even for you to be able to control or have semi-control of those people to be deployed. You know, the opposition people, I mean, those at least who are not in control of the center, will always believe that the security agencies are part of the elements of, undermining the process. So if you really want to exert yourself, you should, yeah, it is good you let the public know the problems you are facing, but that should not be an excuse. We're saying it because INEC has just become an excuse institution. And we should be at a point able to say, yeah, we are taking the blame. Under Jega, for example, he was actually giving us kind of take it or leave it order. If you don't do this, I cannot guarantee you a credible poll. Under Maurice, it was even a worst case scenario because he will paint a rosy picture of things that were going to happen, and we'll just find out that it was just mere rhetoric. What we want now to see from INEC is to see that they are driving the process. We have known from time that these problems will come. You don't have effective control of the security agencies. What have you done about it? The logistics, they will tell us, the National Union of Road Transport Workers and blah, blah, blah. Yes, you don't have. You did some scenario mapping. What's your contingency? Let us see. We are not saying let there be 100% improvement, because no institution in this state is even that perfect. No, there is even good, is near that perfect. So we are not expecting it. All we are expecting, or Nigerians are expecting, is to say, well, this is a journey, not a destination. In this journey, we want to be able to say that we are bringing some of the experiences we picked up along the way to bear on the process, so that at each election we are seeing some kind of perceptible improvement in the process. And that's I believe, what Nigerians are asking for.
That's a good place to let it rest for now. When we come back, we'll get the reactions of the INEC commissioner who is there, almost talked in between both of you to respond to some of those things which you said, Professor Adibe, asking that we want to see that INEC is driving the process. We'll come back after these messages. Join us again. Welcome back to the Kogi Bayelsa election studios. We did have some of the pictures of some of the key candidates going through the process. This one, for instance, and we have a couple of more. Just take a listen.
Okay, this thing will fall. Just find way to take yourself.
Sorry, White lion!
Earlier pictures that we had, the APC candidate Yaya Bello going through the process and also putting his ballot paper in the ballot box. We did see also just before him, I think he's in the company of his wife. This is the PDP candidate Musa Wada, who also voted earlier. We had brought you earlier clips of what he did and how he went through the process as well, and up to this point, and having that Tipex, because they're very important just to have that Tipex on your thumb to be sure that you've voted and you've gone through the process, so you don't have to do it the second time.
Yeah, he had to change location because he couldn't find his name and his number on the polling list.
We're also expecting to get the candidate of the SDP, Natasha Akpoti, in Kogi State. As soon as we get her, that's the picture. She's going through the process as well.
Are we fighting? See what you are doing. What does this mean? What does this mean? Governorship. So why do you take Presidential National Assembly? Any other votes here? 379. Okay. The situation in Kogi State is extremely tense. There's been a series of violence, and it's actually escalating right now. The peak of it was yesterday when we woke up to the news that the SDP State Secretariat was being burnt down. And the manner in which that event happened is actually most worrisome. If we in Nigeria keep saying that we're not happy with the way the status quo is maintained and we want a better Nigeria, we want a more responsive policing system, more responsive judicial system, then it's left for people who occupy these positions of authority to reach down into their soul and do what is right. The policies are there, the rules are there, the guidelines are there, the orders are there. So why not implement?
Interesting. That's the SDP candidate, Natasha Boti. She did go through the process as well. She's also tabling some of her concerns. But let's get back to Festus Okoye. Mr. Festus, Professor Adibe said he wanted to see INEC take the driving seat in the whole of this process. Do you think you're not doing that at the moment?
We are the only drivers or the major driver of this particular process. You know, for me, if you want to assess the performance of the commission and whether the commission is driving this process, you must first of all understand the mandate of the commission. And the constitutional mandate of the commission is to organize, undertake, and supervise elections. Now, in terms of the processes on election day, you must also try to understand the process. One, the ballot papers that we use for this particular election have all sorts of security features and sometimes are coded based on each local government. That is one. Secondly, for a place like Bayelsa, for instance, the materials for the election were batched in the central bank and batched to registration area level. Now, the youth corps members and the students of federal tertiary institutions that act as supervisors, as presiding officers and assistant presiding officers arrived at these registration area centers on Friday, ready to be deployed on Saturday. Now, when the materials are batched to polling unit level, in the morning, the presiding officers and the assistant presiding officers cannot move out of those registration areas with sensitive election materials, with non-sensitive election materials, and head to the polling units. They have to wait for their police escorts or their security escorts, and also sometimes they wait for the poll agents of the political parties, and then all of them will move at the same time. It will be incongruous to expect presiding officers to just move out of their RAs to very difficult terrains, to difficult topography without any form of security. So sometimes when you see delay, it is because the presiding officers are waiting at the RAs for their security escorts to arrive so that all of them can move. So when they don't move, when they don't come on time, there's a problem. We receive reports in some areas that the security escorts were already at the polling units while the presiding officers were waiting for them at the registration area centers, and that created some level of problem, and then that led to the opening of poll slightly late. Our processes, we are in control of our processes. What we cannot control are other processes that are outside our control. The conduct of election is a multi-stakeholder venture. The security agencies have a role to play, the political parties have a role to play, civil society groups have a role to play, and the media have a role to play. Now, it is next to impossibility for the commission to predict everything that will happen. Even if you give us all the money in the world, there is no way we will know that hoodlums or political talks we go and take control of a particular vicinity or a particular community or particular polling units and then start shooting into the air. No amount of money will give you that type of control, and the commission does not have that type of control. That is why we have what we call the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security, so that we can have some level of synergy in terms of the deployment of security. But in terms of driving this particular process, we are driving this process. You can see you call members in very difficult circumstances, in very difficult topography. But what Professor Adibe has refused to do, and what he's refusing to do, is to call a spade a spade. The political elite who are mobilizing violence and who are drugging some of our youths and who are creating an atmosphere of fear, an atmosphere of anxiety, an atmosphere of violence have to be called to order, because we do not have the right to compromise the security of the UCOR members and students of federal tertiary institutions who are volunteering to serve the nation. No amount of money and no amount of insurance can bring back somebody who is dead. So I really believe that if the commission has done well, and the commission has done well in relation to this particular election, in relation to deployment of election materials on time, in relation to printing these materials on time, and also in relation to doing what is constitutionally mandated to do on time. If there is failure on the part of the political elite, if there's failure on the part of the security agencies, and if there's the failure on the part of other agencies that are supposed to complement the work of INEC, he should call a spade a spade. But to say, oh, we have given you all the money in this world does not organize the election. What organizes election is the people developing a democratic spirit and doing what they're supposed to do without engaging in extra-constitutional and extra-legal means. So I really believe that the commission has done well in relation to this particular election. We deployed on time in almost all the polling units. And then where we have problem in isolated polling units, we should try to find out what has gone wrong, and then we try to develop remedial actions and remedial measures to address them. But to say that INEC has not improved or has not learned any lesson coming from 2019 to this particular period,
and
I think it's a very
done already in this process. And here is the hope, you know, that having said all these things that have been said, you know, this is perhaps one other thing that INEC may have to take on board, as we usually say. But then Professor Bassi asked the question, where is the deterrence? Maybe that question will be answered.
Very significant.
A very significant question that will help to ensure that anyone who mobilizes violence during elections is brought to book.
Yes, we must thank all of our panelists, Professor Jide Adibe, the Professor of Political Science, Nasarawa State University, as well as Professor Isaac Obasi, Professor of Public Administration, University of Abuja, as well as Festus Okoye, INEC Commissioner in charge of voter education. Three of you gentlemen, we thank you so much indeed for sharing your thoughts with us and analyzing some of the situations that has to do with the Kogi and the Bayelsa State elections, which we are bringing to you live here on Channels Television's continuing coverage of the exercise, which will continue at 7 p.m. Nigerian time. That's how it's been for now. I'm Gimba Umar.
And I'm Ayo Makide. Stay with us here.